I frequently hear from victims that the criminal and all of his friends were harassing them, and then we'll execute an arrest warrant and we'll find that the criminal was playing the part of all of the bad guys,
Wow.
uh, including people sympathetic to the victim. So, they'll play like the good and the bad. So, oh, my friend is being so mean to you. Here, talk to me, and try and woo the victim in, using more of a romance as opposed to an extortion or a threatening way. So, yeah, absolutely. Having multiple online profiles is such a common thing that I see.
It's a brand new day.
Let's face it, as parents, we can take for granted privacy and safety features that help keep us and our children safe on social media and digital devices. But after listening in on today's discussion, we'll bet that it will be difficult to ignore them going forward. We would like to welcome a very important guest on the topic, Special Agent Daniel Root. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for being here.
We're excited about this conversation. Well, to get things kicked off, we like to give the audience the opportunity to learn a little bit more about who we're speaking with. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in supporting digital and social media safety.
My name is Daniel. I'm an FBI agent here in St. Louis, and I work on the Crimes Against Children and Human Trafficking Squad. So I have a pretty intimate relationship with digital and social media safety, as a lot of the crimes that I investigate have to do with children's safety online and internet-enabled crimes. So it's a part of my daily life, dealing with the fallout from some of these things that happen on the internet and dealing with social media platforms as well.
Yes, the fallout. I know there's a lot of that, and we're happy that you're here so we can help promote this topic and see what we can do to help turn the tables. And thinking about our own use, how do you typically interact and engage with social media, both personally and professionally?
Oh, much more professionally than personally. Obviously, a lot of the crimes that I deal with come from social media platforms, which, the kids are on far much more than I am these days. It seems to be kind of an extension of themselves, and it's integrated very intimately into their life as well. So I interact and engage with them through digital evidence analysis, as well as actually communicating with some of these platforms on legal issues and getting information from them and trying to wrap my head around some of the crimes that have been committed using these platforms.
You're right. It really is kind of an extension of kids these days. It's so important in their lives and they use it a lot. So thank you for sharing. In your experiences, what are some of the typical or most common types of safety concerns when thinking about teens that are using digital devices and social media?
Well, teens are especially susceptible to online enticement for a number of reasons. First, the world is increasingly virtual. If you just think about all the things that they do on their apps and their messages, it's kind of their reality. Even us, if I need to get support from a company, a lot of times we're doing that through online chat and online messaging. So it becomes a reality. That's a different world than I think the world that I grew up in. So this instant access, it's succeeded in making the world a lot smaller, for better or for worse, right? There's a lot of advantages to that, but it allows our teenagers to connect to anyone and everyone. But on the flip side, it also enables anyone and everyone to connect to them, which can be problematic. So one of the big issues that we've seen more recently is like sextortion has become a very prominent issue, whether the criminals have a sexual or a financial motive, but they can reach out to our teens' social media profiles. And specifically with that type of a crime with sextortion, they will engage in a relationship. They will pretend to be, either a boy or a girl that they think they'll be interested in. And then they'll end up extorting them for money or extorting them for nude images or any other sorts of internet-enabled crimes, trying to get them to send photographs or even travel to meet these people or be picked up. So these safety concerns are kind of my daily concern with these crimes.
You see that in the news. It is awfully scary. It's frightening, some of the stories and the outcomes that we're reading. But it kind of ties into something that I'd seen online, a stat that is very powerful and concerning, which is federal investigators believe there are more than 500,000 online predators active each day, and they all have multiple online profiles. More than 50% of the victims are aged 12 to 15, and 89% of the victims are contacted by online predators through the chat room and instant messages, which is what you just alluded to. But with that being said, and to tag on to what you were just talking about, what are some easy wins for parents they can put in place for their children to have a safer online experience?
Yeah, the multiple profiles is something I can absolutely corroborate. I frequently hear from victims that the criminal and all of his friends were harassing them, and then we'll execute an arrest warrant and we'll find that the criminal was playing the part of all of the bad guys.
Wow.
Including people sympathetic to the victim. So, they'll play like the good and the bad. So, oh, my friend is being so mean to you. Here, talk to me, and try and woo the victim in, using more of a romance as opposed to an extortion or a threatening way. So, yeah, absolutely. Having multiple online profiles is such a common thing that I see. So, putting things in place to make your kids safer, that's a very tough, loaded question there. And there's a lot of different things that you can do. And my information is just one data point, right? I'm seeing things typically after they've happened. So one of the things that I encourage parents and caretakers to do is point out, just like what I talked about with this extortion scenario, you can't be sure of who people are on the internet. I think that's kind of been pushed out since the dawn of the internet. You never know who you're talking to. But at the same time, it's also a whack-a-mole game to try and address every single potential avenue through which kids can be reached. So what I find to be most successful, by the time a case gets to me, the outcomes that I find most successful is to have an open dialogue with your kids about online behavior, and also making sure that they feel comfortable coming to you, because try as we might, we can't prepare them for every single possibility out there on the internet, but we can tell them that whatever they encounter will help them get through it. So you can talk about online monitoring software, and that certainly has its place, and reviewing your kid's phone. But kids are creative, and they've got lots of devices sitting around that you can have all the greatest monitoring software on their one phone, but if their friend has an old iPhone that they lend them, all that's for naught. So from my perspective, having that open dialogue is super important, because you're telling them that no matter how it happens, right? It's kind of like you build a 10-foot wall, they'll build an 11-foot ladder. We want to make sure that our kids feel comfortable talking to us about what's happening online. So that's one of the biggest wins, is when you feel that your kid would come to talk to you if they encountered any of these things online.
Absolutely. And it's that trust factor, and teaching them, through those conversations to feel comfortable talking to them. Like you said, that's going to do
absolutely
anything better than, the different devices or just reviewing it. So appreciate that.
Right.
We see scammers, hackers, and online predators evolve in their efforts. What are some other tactics that are used by online predators? You mentioned the chats and things like that, but what other common tactics do you see?
I kind of in order of frequency, I'm seeing a lot of predators simply trying to woo their victims, right? Not through coercion or, pretending to be somebody that they're not. The thing is with such significant access to a large number of kids out there, it's kind of just a statistical thing. They throw out a lot of leads and see what happens. So that is actually one of the most common tactics, is simply just sending out leads, seeing what kids bite on. But for the more deceptive ones, sometimes these extortionists will, the kids all have a lot of ideas that they'll tell. No, I know that this person is real because we had a video chat. And so what we'll see sometimes is they'll just have a loop of of a girl or a boy or somebody that they think that the victim will be attracted to, and they'll just run that, and they'll make up some excuse about the mic not being able to be turned on. But they get more and more sophisticated, and some of these extortion rings have actually, like, on their payroll, right? People that are getting a cut of these profits that are, the ones that are engaging in these phone calls and these video calls with the kiddos, and they're doing this just to dozens of people every day. So those tactics, I think, are escalating as kids wise up to these things. So those are kind of the most common things that I'm seeing in my day-to-day investigations.
My jaw dropped a little bit as you were talking through that. Do you think AI will just continue to evolve? Some of what you were just talking about and creating appealing video loops or making it just a little bit more realistic every time as they continue to build up AI capabilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's hard for even these days to tell what's AI and what's not. And I think those technologies are being leveraged by criminals in every aspect, right, of crime, whether it's white collar crime or fraud or anything like that. And I think that certainly that is one of the enablers that I think we might be seeing more of in the future. But I think that's an interesting perspective. I haven't seen a whole lot of it quite yet, but who knows what's around the corner.
Yes, around the corner. I think that's the right way to say that. It's close.
Yeah.
So without, of course, getting into specifics due to your role, what are some real world scenarios that you've experienced that parents may not have yet considered would be a danger or a threat to their children?
In the teenage years and also younger too, I think that having an awareness that a lot of times abusers are known to the victims, right? There are people in their lives. And again, like, I don't want to scaremonger or try to, put suspicion on everybody. But, I mentioned earlier that having an open communication with your kids is important, and addressing the threats that you don't know where they're coming from. Having that dialogue is so important, because if your child understands what safe touch is and body safety and autonomy and what a healthy relationship looks like, all these threats that haven't been considered or these dangers that haven't been considered can be mitigated, because right, like, you don't know what you don't know. So as far as real world scenarios, a lot of times I'd say a majority of my cases are, I arrive and the parents are like, yeah, no, I've heard about this, and this is something, we were worried about, and it's happened. So I don't think there's any novel real world scenarios that I have that haven't been considered a danger or a threat. But as I said, we try to still mitigate everything possible. So keeping that open dialogue is super crucial.
And that open dialogue is so important. But going into like resources or programs, are you aware of any, or do you promote any to help with digital privacy and safety that maybe parents or schools could tap into?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorites is NCMEC NetSmarts. So NCMEC is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, but they do so much more than just, missing children and making the posters and all that stuff. They have a very robust website, NetSmarts. It's Smarts, SMARTZ, I guess, to appeal to the kids these days. But they've got this program which is really good, and it has lots of different age appropriate materials about talking to your elementary schooler, middle schooler, high schooler about net safety. And in my former life as a high school teacher, I was responsible. We had to do internet safety courses and teach our kids about all that sort of stuff. That was something that I felt was easy to adapt to your own needs. There's a lot of resources out there, but that one is, NCMEC, we partner with them extensively. They are an NGO that is in partnership with a lot of law enforcement. So they're kind of on the front lines and are the clearinghouse for a lot of information about child exploitation. So I highly recommend NCMEC NetSmarts whenever people ask about resources and programs, because they got a lot of stuff out there that I really like.
Oh, that's great. And we'll link out to that and make sure everybody has a quick access point to check that out. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, they're great.
And very cool that you also have the background as a high school teacher. It sounds like you just have a sense of helping out and being there for children, which is fantastic.
It's been a good experience. I think it's helped me in this job for sure.
Excellent. Well, wrapping this up in a sense, what is the single most critical piece of advice that you would share with parents regarding digital and cyber safety?
I think probably mentioned it maybe 7 or 8 times already, but that open dialogue is just
Yeah.
so critical. To try and distill it into one talking point, that dialogue is just so important. And that's what we always try and share with any of the kids that we come in contact with, whether it's personally or professionally, that, you should be able to tell a trusted adult in your life because they will have more experience in dealing with these things, or they'll be able to get you to the right place. So, letting them know that they're not in trouble if they come to you with issues about things that happen to them online, because as a parent, it can be easy to get frustrated at your kids for making decisions that you think might not be the best. But these are teenagers, right? They're still figuring out the world.
Mm-hmm.
And in these criminals that have access to these kids are experts in manipulation. They've done this so much that it's no wonder that they have such a disheartening success rate in exploiting these kids. So trying to blame them or yell at them for that, I've found to be counterproductive. So I make sure that they understand that they're victims of these crimes, and they collaborate with me, with their parents, with law enforcement a lot more when they know that they're helping us catch a bad guy rather than dealing with a crime that's happened to them or a decision that they made. So just keeping positive and letting them know that they're not in trouble. That's the biggest thing that I push out to the folks that I talk to.
That is such a great way to frame that up. And just that approach, I think, says a lot. And it means a lot in building that trust and relationship as well, so that they do feel comfortable coming to you. And Daniel, we've spoken with high school principals, coaches, parents, teachers, and you said a lot of what they've been saying as well. Building that parent relationship, just making sure that parents are there and accountable. They're building up trust and building that relationship. So it's great to hear. It's been such a running theme for us, and it's been powerful to hear how meaningful that is.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm glad that it's been consistent. So
We have a bonus question. If we all took a break from social media for a few days, what would your book recommendation be? What would you be reading if you took a break from social media?
Oh, that's a really good question. Those are two different questions for me, because my book recommendations and what I would be reading would be two different things, because, my job involves a lot of very down, horrific things. So I tend to enjoy a nice light book that it doesn't really delve into the topic that we're talking about. But then also I kind of a nerd in certain ways. I like to read like Malcolm Gladwell books, kind of understanding why people do the things that they do, and what makes people tick. Not necessarily like the crime aspect of things, but those are the things that interest me. And then of course I love a nice biography. So I don't have any great like things to delve into for child exploitation or anything like that. But I enjoy a nice fun book. I think my laugh out loud book is Danny Wallace's Yes Man. I think if you need a little chuckle in your life, that's one of the ones that makes me laugh. So
I'll definitely be looking into that. Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear book recommendations when we're talking about how we're on social media all the time, and just encourage people to check out a book, read a book.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my Goodreads list is I'm sure I would get made fun of it for it. Pretty dry, but also, not the fun beach reads that my wife is reading. So
Malcolm Gladwell he's always fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I fly through those. Those are easy to devour. So,
well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. This is such a critical topic, an important topic, and our goal is to get this message out to parents, educators, and whomever may have an intersection with a child, so maybe they can pass along some tools, resources, and knowledge. And I believe this is going to be a big one for folks to listen to and take something away and be able to share.
Well, great. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for putting this information out there, because you're absolutely right. It is critical, and anything we can do to help protect our children and make sure that they're safe is it's always a good thing. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was a really eye-opening conversation that we had with Special Agent Daniel Root. It was really interesting to hear just the predators, what they're doing, how they're doing it, their intentions. So let's start by talking about the predators and the way that they're wooing kids, especially teenagers. That was really interesting.
Honestly, it was jaw-dropping. I'll admit that several times throughout the interview, I just caught myself with my jaw dropped, literally, just in what he was saying in wooing kids and how good the bad guys are at digital engagement and some of the tactics that they use. He alluded to the fact that they are really skilled at this. They're basically professionals in wooing and manipulating kids into thinking they're someone else or several somebodies and winning them over. It's kind of mind-blowing, actually, to hear it out loud.
Yeah, and having multiple accounts, like when they're in the chat rooms or they're reaching out to people that, they're doing that on multiple different accounts. They're putting that much effort and time and thought into trying to lure these kids in.
Yeah, it's their day job. And probably in most cases, to say it in that way, it almost felt like he was referring to it as a sales position. I believe what he said was predators throwing a bunch of leads out there to see what sticks. And when he said that, the first thing that came to my mind was this is a sales position. Instead of clocking in at an office, they're just logging in from wherever. And of course, in a much more sinister way for society. But that's scary. It's a full-time job to be acting in such a way to manipulate and lure kids off the internet and just throw leads out all day to see what sticks. That's scary.
Yeah, a lot of time and effort spent trying to do that.
Yes.
I think one of my favorite parts of the interview with Daniel was making sure the kids know that they are the victims. I never really thought about it like that. And I love that he said his role when he goes there is to tell the kids they're not in trouble. They're only trying to help catch a bad guy. It's a very positive spin when they know they're not in trouble and they're actually helping catch the bad guy.
Well, we've heard that through several of our interviews, but nobody's articulated it in such a way that he did, that it became a really powerful statement, an eye-opening statement because of how he said it and how he tied it all together in such a nice package with the bow on top. I really appreciated what he shared about these people spend their days trying to entice and manipulate people, and they're very good at it. It's a great reminder to us as parents not to get upset with our kids who are still learning how to make sound decisions. We could build that relationship and build that trust so that they will come and talk to us about anything going on in their lives. It's a great piece of advice.
It really was. It is so evident that, as you mentioned in the interview, Daniel is, he is there to protect kids. And as a previous teacher as well, it is clear that he wants parents to understand, how to support their children and have that open line of communication. The significance of him sharing this information is just, it's amazing. That has to be exhausting to do that work every day. And he really seems passionate about it.
He really does. It rings through in what he was sharing, and you can hear it in his voice. He's very knowledgeable on the topic. I know he spends a lot of time getting this information out. He obviously lives it day to day, but just the information in sharing and how he's gone from an educator to an FBI agent to help further combating this. It's great to know that there are people out there so passionate about our children that they're taking action and efforts to another level. That's really cool.
And I can understand why he wants to do some light reading when he gets home. I'm definitely checking out some of those books he mentioned.
Yeah, I can, honestly. I can't even imagine how heavy this has to weigh on him day in and day out. The things he sees, obviously, he isn't able to share, but it's heavy. And I appreciate him sharing that he can carve out a happy space with LOL reads and just escape from the madness. And again, it's so reassuring to have people like Daniel in these roles.
All right. And then to wrap this up, I did a little digging into this NetSmarts website that he mentioned. We are trying to get different resources and tools out there for teachers and parents and different people. But it is an amazing website. So it's NetSmarts, NETSMARTZ, and it is a cyber tip line. It says it's a place where the public and electronic service providers can report suspected online and offline child sexual exploitation. But even better, it has age-appropriate videos. It has activities. There's a resource link that has presentations, tip sheets, classroom activities. There's training. There are so many amazing resources on it. So I am definitely going to check it out more myself, but I'm hoping that parents, teachers, and different people in the community can check that out and get some more tips.
Yeah, same. And we'll put a link up just so everybody has a way to take a peek at the site and learn more. Just at first glance, it looks like a fantastic resource and something that a lot of people would be happy to leverage.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks for a great interview with Special Agent Daniel Root.
Thank you. And thank you for your time as always. Have I told you that?
Thank you for your time as always. All right. And remember, in the midst of chaos, there is always a way to find clarity. Have a great day.
Bye.
We are growing and would love your feedback. Please rate us and share your thoughts or any topics you would be interested in us covering in the future. Are you or someone you know interested in being a guest on the podcast? Visit us at chaoticdigitalworld.com.
One way to help support the show is by adding a new resource to your library. Order a copy of A Parent's Guide, Keeping Your Children Safe in a Chaotic Digital World today on Amazon. Follow us on all social media platforms, and don't forget to subscribe to keep updated with new episodes and bonus content. As always, thank you for listening. This episode of Chaotic Digital World is brought to you in part by Next Steps Inc. Next Steps, a software created for schools or organizations to transform the way we think about attendance management. Did you know? When an institution or organization uses 5 minutes per day for 6 sessions, that's equivalent to 15 wasted hours per month. And if there's an emergency evacuation, emergency personnel have to go in and search for those who may be hiding. We've solved those problems and more. At Next Steps, you can say goodbye to manual attendance and hello to efficiency and productivity. Our software automates the entire process, saving you time and resources. Visit us on our website at next-stepsinc.com to book a demo and learn more. We're waiting to speak with you.